Elara barely had time to pack a bag before the first explosion rattled her apartment. Glass shattered. The lights flickered. And outside, in the alley below, figures in dark cloaks moved toward him. Cassian pulled her behind him, his stance protected. "They've found us." Elara's heart pounded. No kidding. Cassian's mind was already calculating an escape. The modern world may have changed, but the instincts of a warrior never fade. "We can't stay here," he said. "We need to disappear." Elara grabbed her backpack and nodded. "I know a way." Within seconds, they were out the fire escape, running into the city's dark streets. Behind them, the Order of Eterna closed in. They barely made it to the midnight train heading north. Black Hollow, a place whispered about in ancient books, was their only lead. As the train lurched forward, Cassian sat across from Elara in the dimly lit cabin, his silver eyes scanning the passengers. No one looked suspicious yet. Elara exhaled slowly. "We need answers. If the Order wanted you dead, they wouldn't have just sent an assassin. They need something from you." Cassian frowned, fingers tracing the hilt of the old dagger they had stolen from their attacker. It had the same sigil he had seen before. He met her gaze. "Black Hollow. We'll find what we need there." The train sped into the night, carrying them toward the unknown. Black Hollow wasn't on any map. It was a forgotten town, buried under time and secrecy. At its heart stood a crumbling cathedral half swallowed by the forest. Its stained glass windows shattered this place. Cassian whispered, stepping inside. Something about it felt familiar. Elara walked beside him, her flashlight sweeping over the walls. Ancient carvings of his family's crest were still visible beneath layers of dust. Then, they found it. A hidden door, half rotted with age. Cassian pushed it open, revealing a small, candlelit chamber. And in the center, sitting at an old desk covered in books, was Professor Alden Graves. Elara gasped. "Professor." The old man looked up, his expression grim. "You shouldn't have come here." Cassian's hand went to his dagger. "You knew," Graves sighed. "I did." Elara's voice shook. "Why didn't you tell us?" Graves stood slowly, his gaze heavy. "Because I don't know if you're ready for the truth." Cassian's jaw clenched. "Then tell me." Graves nodded, picking up an old manuscript bound in leather. He opened it, revealing a faded illustration of Cassian himself. Beneath it, in Latin, were the words, "The prince shall rise, and the order shall fall." Cassian's pulse pounded. "What does this mean?" Graves hesitated. Then, he spoke the words that changed everything. "It means you were never supposed to survive." The Order of Eterna had not cursed Cassian's court to trap them in time. They had done it to erase him. Cassian was the rightful heir to a power hidden deep within the Montclair bloodline. A power that, if awakened, could undo the Order's rule over time itself. They had kept him imprisoned, waiting for his name to fade from history. And now that he was back, he was a threat. Elara's head spun. "So they don't want him dead. They want him contained." Graves nodded grimly. "But there's more." He placed another book before them. A genealogy record. Elara's stomach dropped when she saw the name at the bottom. Her name. Cassian's eyes snapped to her. Elara Graves exhaled. "The Montclair bloodline did not end with you, Prince Cassian." He turned to Elara. "Your family survived. You are proof of that." Cassian's breath caught. Elara Montclair was not just his savior. She was his descendant, his last remaining family. Before the revelation could settle, a sudden noise echoed through the cathedral. Elara barely had time to react before a figure stepped from the shadows. Dressed in dark leather, his features sharp and aristocratic, the man smirked. "Ah," he said, voice smooth as silk. "So the lost prince finally learns the truth." Cassian's hand tightened around his dagger. "And you are." The man gave a small, mocking bow. "Lucian Vaughn, direct heir to the man who cursed you. And unfortunately for you, I have come to finish what he started." Before Cassian could move, the cathedral doors burst open. Figures in black cloaks swarmed inside. The Order had found them. "Run," Graves shouted. Cassian grabbed Elara's hand. They ran through the crumbling cathedral, down into the underground, tunnels fleeing into the unknown once more. As they vanished into the darkness, Lucian's voice echoed behind them. "You cannot outrun your fate, Mon." Epilogue. A new mission later that night. Far from Black Hollow, Cassian and Elara sat by a dying fire. Neither spoke for a long time. Then, finally, Elara turned to him. "What do we do now?" Cassian looked at her, at the firelight dancing in her eyes, at the last of his bloodline, the woman who had saved him. He reached out, brushing his fingers against hers. "We end this," he said. "Together." She laced her fingers through his, and for the first time Cassian Montclair was not running from the past. He was facing the future, and he wasn't alone, or a new beginning.